that was a really pivotal moment in my life where I was like, shoot, like everything I kind of planned like just didn't work out.
You're like, what do I have?
Yeah.
I was going through another breakup at the time,
Mm.
and I found myself crying like just kind of like down the street from their house.
Said, I came to a certain point, probably like in high school, when I realized the difference between a religion and a relationship with God. Because I grew up Christian, my parents are Christian, brought me to church every day and everything like that. Everyone is trying to live a good life, like whether they are or aren't, or whether they are deciding to make these bad decisions or not, like everyone at the end of the day wants.
And I find myself like, I look back at my old journals from 2 years ago writing about this person, and I'm like, dude, this kid was so happy. And I was like, fuck, dude,
handle this conflict, we can't, you know what I mean? And I literally could not keep fighting anymore. Like it was too much on me emotionally. Like I was getting ill. Like I was losing weight because I was so stressed. I was getting highs because I was getting so stressed because our fights. Like it was bad. Like I have not. My mental health was. I mean, you could just start about like, hey, today we're here with Maddie. I would be like, hey, you know who I am? I'm Luis, and today we're here with Maddie.
They don't know who I am though.
They don't.
No one knows who I am.
Okay, well, introduce yourself as well.
Why?
Like, so you have, you know, so they can know who you are. To be like, hey, I'm Luis. And if you don't know me, well, you can say like I own or I started OntoTheNext or whatever.
Okay, well, you already introduced me. That's what I'm gonna use. Introduce yourself.
Introduce myself?
Yeah, I'm gonna use exactly everything you just described about me. My name, everything. I don't like introducing myself, so there you go. So there you go.
Okay.
Who are you? If I were to meet you once again, who are you to me?
Okay, so I'm Madeline Peck. Let's see. I graduated Centennial just like you.
Didn't know I existed.
Yeah, that's actually true.
Even though you spoke to me a couple times.
Well, okay.
You didn't know who I was.
Okay, well, at Powder Puff, that's when I first met you. Actually, I think Shine was the one who told me, like, oh, yeah, that's Luis. He does OntoTheNextMedia. I was like, oh, cool. But I didn't remember what you looked like. But all I knew about you was that you took tough pictures, and I really liked that you were into media because you went to our school, and I was like, oh, shoot. Like, I like to see people my age who are just as ambitious. So that's why that kind of caught my attention.
And then
what else should I say about myself?
I don't know, man. Like, to me, whenever I look at you, especially back when I was like in high school, because obviously, like, I don't think I heard a bad thing about you in high school. It was like, oh,
really?
Yeah, it was just like, I was just like, oh, that's Madeline. Like everyone was like, oh, she's hot. I was like, okay.
Okay.
Like whenever people would associate with you, or like say, oh, that's Madeline. Oh, she's just hot. Like, I don't know.
Which, like, okay,
it's kind of a shitty thing to say.
Yeah, like, yeah, I'll take the compliment, but I never liked how that was like all like what people just said about me. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I feel like it bothered me the most because I knew, like, sure, like, I could be a pretty face, but I feel like the substance of who I am is, I feel like my personality is way better than like just like what's on the outside, which is like so cliche, but I think that's so true. Which is why sometimes I like take it to offense. Like, okay, but like there's so much more to me and people like don't know, you know?
Exactly. That's the big thing that took me like by surprise, because obviously you came to me and you were like, hey, if you need anything, and let me know. I was like, what the? But like I obviously knew who you were, so I was like sure. But you were like, oh, I have like kind of some aware of like marketing, things like that. I'm like I was kind of surprised because I was like, oh, I don't really like, I never really pegged you as that kind of person because of like obviously like just because high school no one really like knows how to do any like actual real business thing.
Yeah.
So it was just like it took me by surprise just because of who you were,
Yeah.
who I knew you as, and then what you brought to the table with me. Because the way like especially on the first phone call you gave, it was very like well like articulated, and like even when I like looked like was kind of like on the phone, I was like I wasn't like I was shocked, but like I wasn't like, oh, like this isn't her.
Yeah.
Like, you're not putting up a front. Like when you know when someone's kind of being authentic, and I was like I learned what your front actually was.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, oh, okay, this is actually who she is.
Yeah.
That was the big thing that kind of set it off for me, because I knew who like you portrayed yourself as to
Mhm.
other people, but who you showed me, like especially over like the past like coming like to know you more, that was a big thing that was like, oh shit, like that's what really surprised me and I think is the like the biggest asset you have because you're very like you're able to move like confident in like the business space, but also like just like attract people around you
Mhm.
just because of like the personality that you give to people
Thank you.
and you that's another thing about me like compliments. I don't take them. I don't like give them. It's weird.
You?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like it's something to learn. I feel like because I guess I've noticed that too. Like whenever I compliment something about you, you just like kind of like shrug it off. I'm like, no, like take it, you know, because I know you're confident, so take the compliment confidently as well. It's not like I'm not trying to like butter you up. I'm just like stating fact, and it's something good. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's well. That's the thing. Everyone, like especially like back then, would just be like, oh, they obviously you knew kind of knew what people wanted. That's what I perceive it as.
Hmm.
But obviously, I know who it is, so it's like I second guess myself, and
Yeah.
that's like the big struggle.
Yeah.
But I need to know like, sorry, just like run it through me because apparently you're the host, so I need
Okay.
you need to guide me through
Yeah,
other
okay.
things.
Well, I don't know if I had explained this to you, but basically when I first reached out to you about wanting to get more involved with Onto the Next Media, I was and am still working for I work for a nonprofit women's medical clinic, and what I do is I'm their digital marketing assistant. So,
Mm.
like women and families who are experiencing unplanned pregnancies or just like anything that's like kind of like women's health related that's really difficult, really urgent, needs support that sometimes hospitals or other organizations can't provide, we are there for them. So we are a nonprofit and we provide free ultrasounds, free pregnancy tests, we provide parenting programs for women who are wanting to have a child but don't have the resources to do so. You know what I mean? Um, so that's what I do. And so with digital marketing, I run their social media, I create graphics, I make their newsletters, I film videos, I do photography. And right now, what we're doing is I'm heading mommy and me photo shoots and client testimonials. So these moms who just have their babies and who went through like a really hard pregnancy would like I'm now able to capture that joy of like having their child, you know what I mean? And it's so beautiful, especially being a woman, but also being younger to experience what it's like and how children like gives women so much purpose. But motherhood, womanhood, beautiful, amazing thing. And so I'm able to take pictures and capture those kinds of moments and stuff. So, anyways, I contacted you because I wanted to deepen my skill of photography and videography because that was something I was really getting into, especially filming these women sharing their stories about, you know, having their child and whatever life choices, all these things. And so that's why I want to get more in contact with you. And so coming on here and shooting football games, I mean, obviously is different than mommy and me photo shoots or baby
Yeah.
bump photo shoots, but I learned a lot about just the technical side of photography.
Yeah.
And I think I really appreciate us working together, but also our friendship because I feel like what I noticed from you is I'm gonna say it again, like the ambition and the confidence. And something that stood out to me that literally took me by surprise, and that's how I know like we work really well together. I feel like we both feed into each other and build onto each other, like in a business or more personal setting, is that we were on the field one day. And I'm usually a very confident person. Like I do not shy
Hmm.
away from public speaking. I do not shy away from anything. And we were on the field taking pictures, and you were like, something, something, something about it's all about confidence. I'm like, you're telling me to be confident?
Oh yeah, I think I have that recorded, dude.
I
I've
was
never posted it.
that's okay. I was like, he's telling me to be confident. Like maybe I was like, I've never had someone tell me just be confident. I'm like, and I realized that I can be confident in any setting, but in that setting of I don't know sports, being on the field or something, I was not
Like
confident.
you.
Yeah, basically, it was just, like, really unfamiliar to me. So then that's when I grew more into it, and then when I shot, a school at Saddleback College, I was there by myself. I was on the field, there by myself, and if you were to have told me, like, when I first started I'd be doing that, I wouldn't have, but Yeah, that's why I feel like how I've learned from On to the Next Media. But I feel like I want to hear more about you, about how you started On to the Next and what kind of brought you here. So, how did that start?
The way it kind of started was I had a camera. Like the only reason I remember using it was February 14th, 2021,
Oh, so you know the
because
date.
yes, because it was a field trip that I went on like with Evan,
Mm.
and my dad just recently bought the camera from like a Costco bundle shit. So
Nice.
yeah, so it came with everything. It came with two lenses, a bag, and SD
Yeah.
cards. And then I just started taking pictures. Then I started like editing them just
Hmm.
like on Instagram. And then like I really liked it because like obviously you kind of get to obviously I like just fucking camera photos,
Hmm.
and like I was into like a very film style, especially like growing up, because a lot of the times I was in like growing up specifically like in Garden Grove, like OC kind of area.
Yeah.
There were like a lot of skaters when I grew up with, so I was never fucking good at skating. So I was like, oh, let me film you guys.
Yeah.
But so I kind of learned how to like take videos, but I wasn't like, oh, I'm your videographer.
Yeah. So it kind
But
of just started off as for fun.
yeah, and then I was like, let me buy like this camera to take pictures, like the camera that I have, this camera that
Yeah.
we're recording on.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, let me take pictures just like because I like doing that and like kind of shooting videos. So I got that, and the only reason like I started photography was because like I started taking pictures of environments,
Mm.
and then I started taking photos of people, and then it's not like getting too into it out of like respect, but one person that I kind of took pictures of on that field trip made me actually like fall in love with like taking pictures and making people look good in pictures.
Okay.
Yeah, can you tell? And it kind of grew from there.
Yeah.
Obviously, I had football, so it was like, oh, I like kind of forgot about it.
Mm.
And then towards the end, I was like, oh, I want to document my like closing out high school and like my
Mm.
senior year and stuff like that. Because obviously, like I had just started football when I was in high school, and I never was like a good football player at all because I didn't like it. Because like you kind of lie to yourself and you're like, oh, I like it because like the people that I'm around.
Yeah.
But obviously, like me personally, I didn't like actually playing on it. But now that I think about it, it's like I could have done better, but it was just
Mm.
like it kind of ended up the way it did for a
Yeah.
reason.
100%.
And then towards the end, I gave the camera to one of the guys that was injured. Um, he was in my position group. I was like, bro, just take pictures of everyone, like, cause no one. I was like one of the. This is when it up because they
Okay.
were just taking pictures of everyone.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, I want pictures. And I was like, I really don't want pictures because of how I
Mm.
looked in football. But he was just like, yeah, take pictures. And then we all got pictures, and I was like, let me edit these because I found like a free like preset on Lightroom,
Okay.
like a film kind of thing. So I did all those pictures. I still have them up. Um, and then I was like, let me do something with this after like graduation because it was towards the end.
Mm.
And I was like, let me edit these and then post them somewhere. And I was like, I'm gonna give you guys. I released those photos, and then on the way out, our final game, everyone was like, "Bro, where are the photos that Jared took?" Because that was the guy's name. He was like, "Oh, like where are they?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm like they're right here." And then I just kind of like gave them to everyone.
Yeah.
And the second time I was like I really like editing these photos and like kind of like I like telling stories that way
Yeah.
because obviously like you see movies and stuff and you're like, "Oh, I kind of want to do that."
Mm.
And I kind of started that way. And then I was like, I actually like turned out to like not be completely terrible at it. So I was like, let me just wait and like kind of see.
Yeah.
And then for the name, like I was just like, let me just kind of go forward with it because I had Coach Crush with track, and I was like, I want to incorporate like kind of showing off Coach Crush and who he was
Yeah.
and like all those kids,
Mhm.
and then bring it to track. So I was like, if I'm gonna continue doing this, might as well put a name behind it because I
Mhm.
didn't want it to be me. Just because the way I want to create something, it's gonna be something that I can eventually leave
Mhm.
because I don't want to be associated with like, oh, that's on to the next media, that's OTN, that's not my name.
Mhm.
I'm like me, and
Yeah.
that's the thing that people will try to do. They'll try to put you in the box. They're like, oh, he's a football player. Oh, he's like a smart guy. Oh, he's 200 pounds at 10 years old. But like, it's
Yeah.
like it was that's something I didn't do. So obviously I put thought into it,
Yeah,
and
and that's a really good point before you move on, not confining yourself to like perceive identities of like, oh, I am this or I'm that. I feel like people are all encompassing, which I feel like is a kind of point that you hit on. But I feel like also what is really unique about Onto the Next Media is, and this is something that I noticed and why I wanted to join, is because it's very much relatable. Like it's peer to peer. Like we're shooting friends and it's like very relational and it doesn't seem very like hard cut business like we need to get paid and all these things. It's and that's what I love. That's where it rooted from. Like it literally rooted from your friends taking pictures of you, and then now it's growing into this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's like the whole thing behind it,
Yeah.
especially with the name, because the way that my coach would always tell us, because obviously like my senior year, basically our senior year,
Mm,
the starting running back got injured and he was out for the whole season basically. So it was second string running back and me. I became second string running back. I was like, oh
mm,
shit! Like I actually like kind of started working towards something, and I got some success in it.
yeah.
But every single week he'd be like, "We're on to the next team. Like, don't worry about what happened last week."
Oh,
And then
okay.
I was just like, I really like that.
On
And
to the next. Yeah.
yeah, and then I didn't realize it was two separate words, on and then two were separate words. So I was like,
Oh,
fuck it.
whatever.
I kept it. So that's how that kind of like got started. But like going forward with that, it was like obviously in the beginning people were like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Because obviously like I was just kind of like a dumbass pretty much like junior senior year because I
To
just got
say it
here.
bluntly, I guess.
Yeah, like I've never been like obviously you weren't like kind of exceptional. Like I didn't come here fucking being a D1 athlete like obviously all these other athletes were. So you
Mm,
just fall to the wayside. But obviously like people obviously like started talking shit in the beginning because
mhm,
like, oh, like what are you doing? Oh, it's the guy that takes photos. It's
mhm,
like they would make fun of you.
mhm.
And then now it's just kind of like, oh, those people obviously flipped, and it's like you kind of remember who did what,
Yeah.
and it's never I've never have any like hate or disrespect to the people, but
Yeah.
it's something that you'll always know, just like kind of how people are,
Yeah.
and that kind of comes from like the putting people in a box kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if those people will consistently show you that's who they are, and like even behind like closed doors,
Mhm.
and they show how they really feel behind closed doors, it's kind of who you like perceive in the brain.
Yeah, that's really good. Like when people show you who they are, believe it. Like, because I feel like oftentimes some people are really kind and they just want to believe the best in people, and people will do them wrong or whatever, and or they'll hear rumors, and they're like, oh no, like they wouldn't. But when people show you who they are, believe it. And I feel like that's something you've come to learn, which is really good. But something I also want to ask you is, how do you think like your own personal experiences, because I know you didn't go to Centennial all 4 years. I think you went to Centennial like 1 year,
Too.
2 years. Okay, but how do you think your experiences outside of Centennial has contributed to your success with Onto the Next Media at Centennial?
I do not have success.
Okay, with your, I would say so. I would say so
Yeah.
because do you see every other teenager doing something like this?
No, but I'm not where I need to be, you know?
Okay, but there are little mini successes that you can celebrate.
Yeah. But I feel like that's another issue that I have, is just like kind of focusing on the next thing.
Okay. Literally
But
on to the next thing.
yeah, and
Yeah.
but to me, like this just happened. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like growing up, obviously, like I perceived myself as like growing up overweight. You kind of obviously people make fun of you, but from there, like you learn to make fun of yourself because it's like, oh, that's the normal thing to do.
Mm,
If people are making fun of you, you fit in to make fun of yourself. And growing from that, it was like that was kind of who I was up until like freshman year going into high school. And I kind of joined football to be like, oh, I'm gonna be with my friends. And see, sophomore year, obviously obviously like freshman year, everything kind
mm,
of shut down. So I was alone, but we ended up moving here, and I was still going to school in Garden Grove because everything was online, and it was just too much of a hassle to transfer everything.
mm,
And I eventually kind of just found like I'm tired of being who I was, and like, moving kind of from who I was like around that time.
mm.
This is the funniest thing I ever tell people. Like if anyone wants to start working out and like they don't know kind of where to start, this is the way I started. So obviously it's like the weight room
Yeah.
from football, but it wasn't. I fucking sucked at it, number one, and number two, I just hated it. Like it just hurt obviously. but I was like, I want to do better and like be better for me.
Mhm.
So what I did, I had like obviously like when you're a kid, you have like what, $50. I spent like 30 of those dollars on some pre-workout from Target, C4, blue raspberry. I
Okay,
remember
so you
this.
you know everything.
Yes, I'm telling you, I forget like a lot of the things I'll repress and like shove to the back of my mind and be
Yeah.
like, oh, I forgot that. But like if I spend long enough time, I'll remember everything about my life. But that's like another thing. I got home. This is what I did. I waited till every single person in my family went to sleep. There were like 9 people living in that house at the time,
Mm.
and I was in like the little porch patio kind of thing because that separates the house from the
Yeah.
actual patio. Waited till everybody went to sleep. Drank the pre-workout. Did push-ups on my knees, struggling, and then slid my feet under like kind of like a table kind of thing,
Yeah.
and started doing sit-ups. Like obviously like it's not doing shit because obviously of like where you kind of are, but it was like like the starting point for me
Yeah.
because obviously like it was embarrassing like a fat person working out. So it's like fuck dude, like what are you working out for? And that's the way like I thought of it as, but I was like I'm doing it to get better for me.
Yeah.
And
Everybody starts somewhere.
exactly, and that's exactly how I started working out.
Yeah. Because now you go to the gym a lot. I know you be.
Not lifting a lot, but
Yeah.
just going.
Yeah. Well, I know you go to the gym often.
Huh?
I know you go to the gym often though, because sometimes I'll be texting you or something. You're like, "Sorry, I'm at the gym right now." I'm like, "All right."
Wait, what you said? Why do I go to the gym so much?
No, no, no. I was just saying that you do go often now, like,
Oh,
because you're talking about kind of how you grew up being and how you talked about how it was embarrassing for you to be like the fat kid working out, whatever. And now you hold yourself confidently. You go to the gym and all that stuff now. So it's interesting to see that kind of change the dynamic and how you like kept that consistent.
exactly. That's my thing. It's like it's just something that I always kind of like doing, especially as I
Working out.
yeah, because just like emotions and things like that.
Mm,
A lot of the times I find myself very over emotional about things, like finding myself very angry or very like stressed about things.
mm,
And a lot of the times I'll just be like, oh, let me go like go run a little bit, let me go jump rope, let me go work out.
yeah. And honestly, that's a healthy way to cope with emotions.
Oh fuck no.
It's not
I can't, bro, because I'll just like I
coping with
remember.
emotions.
Yeah, I can't do emotions, dude. That's my thing. Cause obviously,
That's
like,
so funny. I feel like we're so similar, but we're so opposites, and this is one of the opposites. But go ahead and finish what you're saying.
yeah, you don't let emotions kind of handle you at all, and that's my thing. Like, I may perceive myself as something, but I know like a big thing of myself is that I'm very emotional about things.
I'm very emotional.
Yeah, but when I lose it, like I lose it. You know,
What does that
that's
look like?
oh, the last time I remember sobbing, a couple months ago. I was kind of I was hanging out with someone and I'm like it's not like oh it's like a sexual thing, but it was like oh we were just kind of hanging out and we were talking about like how we got the way we are, and a big thing of me was my grandfather and
Mm,
like the way I grew up. He kind of in a way raised me because obviously my parents were working,
yeah,
and he was kind of always there to like oh let's go do this.
yeah,
Like he was the one that put me into like sports, and after he passed away I that's when I like gained weight and like my life took like the deep dive.
yeah.
And every single time like I would bring it up, especially like now I feel like I'm getting better at it, but like even back a couple months ago, not even like a couple weeks ago, like it was like I just like started like to begin to think and I just like absolutely lost it, and like tears and like boogers and like you know you
All
just
the
like can't
ugly
like you can't
stuff.
breathe, yeah.
Yeah.
But like that's like a lot, I feel like a lot of where like my emotion came from,
Mm,
and like a lot of that carried over into obviously like relationships,
mm,
but it's not a lot of thing, it's not something that I'll just kind of show to anybody.
mm,
And that's the good thing that I know about it, like whenever I'm emotional about something it's very strong,
mm.
but other than that people don't see it because
Yeah.
obviously you see that.
Yeah. I feel like that tendency to kind of have like those intense emotions or no emotion at all is a coping mechanism in itself, where like in order to cope with these emotions you feel like you have to like shove them, kind of like put them to the side until it gets too much to carry, and then it kind of all comes out like that, which honestly is relatable. I feel like at first, I used to be like that. I feel like my sister is a lot more like that than me. Not to out her
Yeah.
out, but I would say I'm a really emotional person too. But the thing about me is like I don't know how to hide it. Like I am an open book. Like you can tell how I'm feeling on my face. If I'm sad, if I'm happy, I just show it and I'm not really good at containing it.
Mhm.
And so for the longest time, like not to turn this into a professional conversation, but like in a professional setting, I was really bad at separating personal from work life and having that separation of what's personal and what's professional. And so kind of like in the same sense, I when I'm sad, I don't know how to hide it. I will like just talk about it. Like if I'm feeling a type of way, like I just need to talk about it. And that has caused me to be like really confrontational, which is like good and bad in the same sense. Where if I am having like beef with somebody, like in the most like graceful and gentle way possible, I'll just like want to talk about it, not even with anger or anything. I just be like, hey, like, so I kind of noticed that this was kind of going on. Like, how are you feeling about it? Or did I do something wrong? Or something like that. Because if I know something is wrong in my head, like I can't just like push it to the back of my head. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's another thing that we conflict on. The way like people explain love in like relationships in like parental and like loving, there's the like the anxious where you're kind of like always worried what the kind of person is doing,
Yeah.
the avoidant where it's like if they're not kind of giving it to you, you just kind of go off and to do your own
Are
thing.
you avoidant?
Yeah,
I'm
I'm a
anxious.
little bit between both
Oh yeah.
because whenever it's with people and like I kind of know it's they're done with me, like I'm just done with them, and then when they want to come back, I'm just
Oh,
like
that's interesting.
and then whenever I'm with people in relationships, I'm always, where are you? Like I'm obviously like
Yeah.
the kind of like the helicopter person,
Yeah.
but to like a certain extent. I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of it comes down with like communication and things like that,
Hmm.
and just kind of like how I was raised and like the experiences I've had.
Yeah.
But more often than not, I just don't even like want to associate with people.
Yeah.
But when people kind of I bring people into my life as like serious relationships, that's when I become like the, oh, please stay with me, you know?
Yeah, I get that. No, I'm heavily relational. Like, I love people. I love having like good friends.
Mhm.
And so I put in a lot of effort in friendships and like thought and like heart and all that, which is why I feel like I am like the more anxious tendency type because I don't want to lose people in my life. It's just I'm like hard to let go of friendships. Now, when it comes to like romantic relationships, when it ends, I feel like I'm pretty good like to move on. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Which I don't know why that is, but it just is like that.
No, bro, that's literally the complete opposite of whatever,
Really?
dude. Obviously, bro, how many friends do I have? I have
That's
I
true.
have you, CJ, and Kate. That's it.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
So it's like the people that I'm around, like, bro. Obviously, I'm checking up on Kate and CJ like
Yeah.
a lot of the time, but like other than that, I don't really think about people.
Oh yeah.
And it's like a shit. I feel bad about it because like obviously there's people that kind of do have their stories,
Hmm.
and like obviously I chose a career as barber, but I like hearing the stories, but it's like I've never really like I've never brought those people close to me enough to like, oh my god, like I feel and I care so much about you,
Oh really?
and
That's
that's
we're
why I
opposite of that.
feel.
No, I we're the same in the sense that we love hearing people's stories. Like I love hearing your story. Um
Mhm.
And, like, with everyone's story, like, I, like, connect to it, you know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, I hear you, like, I get that."
you always relate to people, like no matter what, in
Yeah,
certain aspects, and
yeah.
that's what I do like about life because you kind of see that you like even the people opposite of you like us, we still have things that connect us a lot,
Mhm,
especially in life, just because like the human experience is pretty much like very
mhm.
similar,
Yeah,
and that's what I do like about it.
yeah, 100%. Like, at the end of the day, like, we're all people.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like I'm the type of friend that's I will not text you every day. Like, if
Mhm.
you wanna FaceTime every day, text every day, like, I'm not really that friend, you know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
got my stuff that I'm doing, like, I work, I go to the gym, like, I do this, I do, like, modeling for fun on the side, like, other things, like, I just my life, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I'm really good, like, really close my best friends are kind of like those low maintenance friendships because I feel like I'm also a very low maintenance friendship, like, we don't need to be texting all the time, you don't need to be, like, whatever, whatever. Like, we can have space and still be good.
Mhm.
Like, my best friends, like, Eden and Troy, I don't talk to them very much, but we have that understanding, like, we care and we do life together and we're so close with each other, like, we don't need to be, like, texting and talking all the time, but we hang out, like a good amount.
Yeah.
So it's like that's how like we reconnect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's like a lot of the way I am, but it depends on like the person,
Mm,
because that's what I found. I found myself like reflecting a lot of people, especially in like relationships. If people are
mm,
very distant, I'm very distant.
mm.
If people just like are very like, I want to be with you 24/7, I'm like, oh, I'm here waiting for you, and it's like obviously it's not healthy, but I do notice that tendency in myself,
Mm.
and I do have the ways where it's like I do want to be with people and I do want to be alone, and I
Okay.
obviously I get that a lot.
So where's that balance of like, because you say you always want to be around people, but you also are alone a lot of the time. So like, where?
The way I've come to perceive it is I'm always like, oh, I want to be doing something with other people,
Mm,
and then I'm there for like 30 minutes. I'm like, bro, I want to go the fuck home. So I've just come to realize that I do kind of like certain things, like most things alone,
mm.
but as like the big thing that I've always kind of like been looking for is like someone to like be supportive,
Yeah.
because
So.
obviously when you have your friends that are like, everyone's kind of worried about them
Mm-hmm,
versus the friends that are like, oh bro, what are you doing, like what you been up to, how have
mm-hmm.
things been with this and this.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to find those people.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me to put effort into that unless I see them come first.
Yeah.
But that's something that I do need to change. Obviously, like a lot of people are very quiet and they don't open up,
Mm-hmm.
like myself. But that's the thing that I've learned, because like the wrong people will kind of ruin your relationship
Oh yeah.
and like who you are as a person, but like the right people will elevate you to like someone you can't even like
Yeah.
perceive. And that's something that I did learn, specifically in like a relationship.
Okay. Let's
Yeah.
get into it.
Fuck, dude. All right. So basically, kind of when I started the whole OTN thing,
Mm.
I was very focused on one person at the time, and this person was very like supportive of me, and they're, yeah, you're smiling because you know yeah,
Yeah.
and they were very like behind me the whole time.
Well, it's either one of two girls.
No,
Because there's that girl that I asked you recently, and then there's the other girl.
no, you're no, you're thinking, okay.
Okay, the girl I can't wait. I'm not gonna out it out, but
There's, yeah, that's before this time. This time is like 4 or 5. And it was very much like a
okay.
juggling thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it wasn't like I was just exhausted all the time.
Okay. I think I know who you're talking about. 17.
No, you don't, because all these people. There's like the reason I keep like a lot of people, like when it's done, it's done.
Mm.
You know.
Okay. If now that you said that, now I know who you're talking about.
Mm, we're
No.
definitely not thinking of the same person.
What you're talking about?
No,
I tell you, I
you
forgot.
don't know her.
I don't know her.
No, this is the girl from February 14th, 2021.
Oh. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So after that whole thing kind of ended, um, as soon as I started everything like that, she was very supportive,
Mm.
and she was like, "Oh, blah blah blah. Like I see you going far with this thing, because like I've never seen you really practice this, but you're so into it.
Mm.
Like I was watching like YouTube videos on cameras, like during my lunch by myself. Like I was
That how
in,
it be sometimes.
yeah." That's honestly how I am now. Honestly, like I'll set my little phone up while I'm eating.
What are you eating? Are you a
Yes,
screen
bro.
eater type of person?
No.
Oh,
Like
okay.
I'll have like, especially now recently that I'm just kind of like focused on certain things.
Mm.
I'm just literally like, today, like I had a steak, stared at the wall for like 10 minutes while I finished my steak. I was
Nice.
like I wasn't even like thinking about it, and I got finished. I'm like, bro, what the fuck did I just do?
I know.
And I'm like, okay, let me get back to work.
Yeah.
And but like, yeah, back then I was like, oh, like it was something that I really like loved doing, even though
Mm.
people talk shit on it. And then she was like, oh, I see you going really far with it. Like I'm very behind with it, and like I wanna work with you after graduation and everything like that.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that's like really cool. And that's where like the support came from.
Yeah.
And I was like I saw like a lot of growth in myself, not only myself, but like the business side of things, where it was like, oh, I'm starting to get more followers and more people are like talking about my things.
Mm.
And after like certain things, especially relationships, become like, you learn to focus on other things. It's very hard to like, when the person brings you down, they bring you down.
Mm.
And when they bring you up, they bring you down. Or
When
when
they
they
bring
bring
you
you up,
up,
they
they
bring
bring
you
you up.
up. Yeah.
So that kind of comes, and this kind of reminds me of a conversation I had recently about like dependency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've learned like based on myself, I'm very not not dependent on people for things, but dependent on people on like support. Because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like growing up, I didn't have enough like felt like I supported myself so much, and I look
Mm-hmm.
for that in people, where it's like I need someone to say, "I believe in you,"
Yeah.
and now like I'm learning to be better about it, but it's still like really fucking hard to where it's like sometimes like you're just kind of working and you're like, what am I doing it for, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of the times you just want to like give up, especially if that was like one of the reasons you start. It's like kind of after everything, it's either you want to like pursue the future that you saw at that time,
Mm-hmm.
or just to do it like you do it either out of vain or like out of like revenge, or do
Mm-hmm.
it out of like kindness in your heart to say like I want to make it for me versus I want to make it to prove all these people wrong. And I think it's like a very like way you see it, because if you're doing something for like a negative thing, I feel like a lot of the times you're just gonna give up, because obviously eventually you learn to stop hating people.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing like I had to learn, because obviously like when people talk shit on you for the longest time, you just learn to hate everyone. And
It's easy
that's
to.
yeah,
It's easy to hate people.
that's my thing. I feel like for the longest time I hated every single person. Like my saying my junior year was I hate everybody. I didn't matter who they were. It didn't matter what it was. I was focused on me, like playing football, like going to school,
Mm.
coming home, and like enjoying like kind of whatever I have. And then after kind of certain experiences with people, I learned to love life and like love people for who they are, even if it's not like romantically,
Yeah.
because I see that like I find myself in so many other people, and people for some reason resonate with me when I like all I do is just kind of talk about what I think.
Yeah.
Like I very much get into like a flow state. Like right now I
Mm.
haven't
Which I love and appreciate you
yeah,
having this conversation with me.
yeah, I've never I don't show this part of myself. A lot of the times it's like, oh, it's this dumbass, it's like this annoying guy who kind of just talk shit.
Never.
Yeah, then that's who I like perceive myself as outside. But when I choose to show certain people this, it's very different, and people
Yeah.
are like they're very much stunned by it, like you. And not only in like the you were stunned by it, but it's the like the way you shocked me. And that's the like as soon as I meet more people like that, and like the more I articulate this part of myself to people,
Yeah.
and the way that they're so like open to it and they explain themselves, that's where I learned to like love people for who they are.
Mm.
Because so many people like sometimes have so much like so many things that they're thinking about,
Mm.
and a lot of the times they just kind of like flow through life and they push them kind of down.
Mm.
And it's a big thing that like a lot of people would just kind of like find nice in like the random day,
Mm.
as they'll just meet like I'll meet a random person, and then like they talk about like their kind of struggles in life,
Mm.
and like it's easy for them to open up, because like it kind of wakes them up, you know, because no one really asks, or like how are you genuinely doing, like
Yeah.
how how are you, dude, you know.
Mm.
And I had an experience literally yesterday,
Tell me about it.
shooting a game at Roosevelt. And I was like talking to like some security, like, you know, hey, let me like check in, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then I was like talking to a security lady that had chairs right there. I was like, oh, can I sit down? She's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. She's like, who are you shooting for? I'm like, oh, I'm shooting for Centennial, blah blah blah. She's like, oh, you get paid for it? And I was like, no, not like obviously not, like that wasn't like being a dumbass. Obviously not. But like
Mm.
no, but like obviously I'm working towards something. And then I kind of explained like certain things, and she kind of like was very receptive to things. And she kind of explained like life as a security guard, and it's like, oh, I don't really do it for like blah 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 protection, but it's just like it's just a job that I have to like kind of pay for my bills and kind of do whatever I want to do outside.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's cool, because so many people disrespect, like especially in sports, like referees and like
Yeah.
security,
Mm.
especially as kids. Like, you know, you talk shit on security, but like
And
what
lunch
their job,
ladies.
dude. The lunch ladies is so fucked up.
I know.
But yeah, it's like, bro, these people like you don't stop to think about like the people that have families and what
Yeah.
they think in their mind.
And you know what? Like you're able to see that about people because you have that understanding of growing up, of having that struggle. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like now coming out of it, you're able to see that, which a lot of people really don't. And so I feel like, yes, what you went through really sucked, but it has equipped you in so many ways that has made you the person that you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've never regretted anything in my life, even if
Yeah.
like shit's kind of sad. I love it all, bro.
Yeah, love it all. And I always talk about that. Like God bless us with this life, like all the good and the bad and the ugly of it. Cause honestly, one day we're gonna die. And this whole life is literally an experience. And I remember when I was going through my breakup, I was just like really down about it. Like it really messed me up because I literally thought like with my ex, I thought I was gonna marry the kid. And so kind of that being all like, okay, well, that didn't work out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was really hard, but I learned like I'm thankful for the opportunity to love somebody that much. Like I'm thankful that I'm able to, I mean, be sad and like miss it because I know like that's how I knew it was real. I'm
yeah,
thankful for being happy and like still here. It's like all the experiences of life is all part of you being able to live. It's just
yeah,
like an understanding that I'm still alive and I get to experience these things, whether good or bad. Because at the end of the day, like, I mean, that's all you really got, you know?
yeah. You just gotta love life, man.
Yeah.
That's something that I did have to learn, you know,
Yeah.
because for the longest time you just kind of hate the world just for treating you like shit.
Yeah.
But the world treats you kind of how you treat the world.
Yeah. So about forgiveness, how do you feel about that now? Or what is your journey over forgiveness with people? Because I feel like that's something you also had to learn, not to hate people anymore, you know?
Yeah. Um, I think of it in breakups because it's like that's the easiest way to describe it. Because I think about like my freshman year and I took a breakup like very hard,
Mm,
like just crying all the time, like not being able to control myself over months.
mm,
And even recently, like I found myself like feeling bad over a person that just kind of like left me without like no reason.
yeah.
And I just started like sobbing for like the longest time, and this was like around graduation. So, like I felt so alone. Like I
Mm,
just felt like the you feel like the one person that truly knows you, and like the one person you can like really open yourself up to, just leaves you for no reason.
yeah.
It was hard, but like after I got past it, I realized that like people don't really need a reason to. Someday, like sometimes people just feel like they need to,
Mm,
and I'm not gonna blame someone for that, you know.
yeah.
And when I think about it, it's like sure, like people will have the reason, but they don't need to give it to you.
Yeah.
And like I'm very easy on people because I learned especially with my parents as like you kind of get older, you see your parents for who they are.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times when I was growing up, my parents could do no wrong, and even they made it seem like that was true at sometimes,
Mm,
where it was like, oh, you need to do something because I'm your parent and I'm always right.
mm,
And it's a bad conditioning in some aspects, but it's also like great to have faith in your parents.
mhm.
But that's where I really learned that eventually like you realize that this is the kind of their first time here too.
Yeah.
Not
This is
only
their first life, you know?
yeah, and they haven't really learned how to do it correctly.
Yeah.
And I think most parents don't know how to raise children correctly. And that's fucked up to say, but like
No, but it's true, you
it's
know?
like when people won't take the time to learn what's best and like the best environment, the best
Yeah.
way to talk to a child.
Yeah.
And a lot of people very much aren't equipped.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation a while back where it was like are you gonna put your kid in sports? And I was like I really don't know because like right now I think I do, but if like later down the line when I'm settled enough and I'm able to like put some intention and a couple years into learning what it means to be a dad and what it
Yeah.
means to have a kid with the woman I love, then I'll be able to kind of give my opinion on what I want to do with my
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah, and that's really good. And let's talk about that for a little bit. Like the idea of dysfunctional families.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a little understanding of what that looks like. But it's really good that you're able to notice that because having that understanding of, okay, I need to make sure that I am a good dad, that I don't let my past or my experiences, like growing up or whatever, affect my fatherhood. Because I feel like a lot of the times with our parents, the way they're raised is how they treat us, because that's all that they really know. And that's honestly a really hard thing to accept, especially me at a certain time, because I used to always be like, oh, like, why does my parent like treat me like this? You know what I mean? And I held like a lot of anger with my parent. And I mean, you grow up and you realize like this is their first life. This is their first time being a mom, first time being a dad. And so that understanding kind of allows you to have that forgiveness and grace with them because
Yeah.
that's all they really know. Does it excuse it? No. Does it make it right? No. But to have that understanding of, okay, I'm not going to let the way my parents treat me affect the way I treat my kid is really important because that's how you really break that like generational curse of like either anger or like anything like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the big thing I learned, especially with my family,
Yeah.
and like more specifically my dad, because growing up, my dad was very like, um, I don't know how to say it, like, well, I don't know how to put it other way, but like he beat our ass, but it wasn't like, obviously it's not like abuse. It
Mm,
was Mexican parents disciplining their children,
yeah.
but
It's cultural too.
yeah, exactly. I learned a lot of it came from my grandpa and my grandma that did that to him when he was younger.
Yeah.
And I think they did it worse than what he did to me. Like
Yeah.
what he did to me was like, bro, I was being a fucking brat, number one. But a lot of the times people will just kind of have children and without learning how to raise
Yeah.
like children properly,
Mhm.
so they'll only raise the way that they knew how to raise children, which
Yeah.
was from their parents.
Yeah, exactly.
And eventually eventually you kind of learn. Sometimes people don't. I know I find a lot of people don't, especially in the tendencies with the people they get into relationships with,
Mhm.
where specifically like women of divorce, because I find myself in relationships with girls like that because that's something that I've noticed, that a lot of the times they'll either become very anxious or very avoidant
Mm,
because of what their parents do to them.
yeah.
And because obviously if dad isn't around, like you just learn to avoid it,
Yeah, and
or
even
you're
if even if they're present physically, they may not be present emotionally, and so that
exactly.
still affects daughters. But sorry, I cut you off. What were you
No,
saying?
no, no. That's exactly what I was gonna go back to. When it goes back to anxious kind of
Yeah.
styles, you learn that even if dad isn't like around in a divorce way, sometimes he's just not there to like love his daughter.
Mhm.
So she's always like, "Oh, when is dad gonna come home?" And she's
Mhm.
always like waiting for him to show up again. Versus like someone that's like, "Dad's never gonna show up, so I'm not gonna worry about anything like that."
Yeah. Like fatherhood, I don't think people realize is so important for daughters and sons especially.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had a taste of that like, growing up. My dad didn't grow up with really good parents. He grew up with abusive parents. He was on his own when he was like, I don't know how, like 16, 17, 18, or something like that.
Mhm.
And so he never really got that nurturing father, mother role in his life.
Mhm.
Um, and so that understanding of my dad led me to do a research project in high school with like AP seminar or something like that. And my research question was the correlation between poor paternal relationships and teen dating violence, specifically among Asian American adolescents. So basically, how does your relationship with your dad affect the likelihood of you experiencing teen dating violence? And studies show that actually, I forgot the statistic, but the Asian American women who grow up with poor paternal relationships, so the dad is absent emotionally, and does not like show them love physically with words, anything like that, they are more likely to experience dating violence, is
Mhm.
what like my studies showed, which is like so true and so important because like an absent father, whether it's emotional or like physically, leads women to have struggles with relationships with men because their relationship with their dad reflects how they view relationships with other men, which is really, really true. And I feel like I've seen this kind of in myself. And this is kind of how I was in high school too. Like I will admit, um, okay, that was kind of like my experience in high school. So I realized that like because my dad and I didn't have the best relationship, I kind of looked for that safety and security from a male in other relationships and like high school boys, which
Mhm.
stupid to say like what did I think that was gonna help, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But it's I understand. That's why like I have a lot of like understanding and grace with other girls who are like out like doing whatever. It's like they could be doing it knowingly or not knowingly because they're trying to like fill or find something in themselves they don't supply to themselves. And I'm not saying that all girls are like that, but that's how I was. And now where I'm at the spot of like, I know I have that tendency, I've learned to deal with it. And so now I feel like God supplies all of my needs. I don't feel like I
Mhm.
need a man in my life to make me feel like pretty or secure or safe or have companionship or anything like that. So that's how I know like now if I do get into a relationship, it's purely like not out of like selfish intent of like how can they make me feel, but more of like I know what I could offer him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the thing I noticed more as I like mature in myself and like the people that I become more serious with.
Mm,
A lot of the times you just like kind of see people and they pique your interest,
mm,
but I find myself being more observant, but not in like the weird way,
yeah,
where it's you see what these people do on a daily basis and like the way that they surround themselves with people.
yeah,
And after you spend like a certain like amount of time figuring out who you are and like what you like in life,
mm.
you see the tendencies in people like me. I find myself like more alone and like I enjoy being able to sit by
And
myself.
that's really important and really good because not a lot of people can do that.
Yeah, I notice um like not even like a side tangent kind of thing, but
But go ahead.
I noticed with one person where I was trying to tell them to meditate, like just like not even meditate, but like meditate, like put everything away and just be able to sit like in a room alone, kind of just like thinking by yourself.
Mm,
And this person like couldn't. I would find them like fidgeting
mm,
and just like kind of like a like doing kind of like doing anything to like
yeah,
distract their mind. And I learned that's like damn, like some people just can't do it
yeah,
because of like the things that they battle inside their head.
yeah,
And I feel bad, but I feel like I had my own kind of things to go through
yeah,
and I was able to do it.
yeah.
So I always
100%.
know it's possible.
So what do you think has made you so comfortable being alone?
I didn't have another option, dude.
Like growing up
Um,
or more towards high school?
dude, life. Cause um in Eastville, I lived there till I was like about I think third grade.
Mm,
So when I was born till about third grade, mom and dad were always like working. Obviously,
mm,
my sister was very like obviously we would hang out, but as we moved to another house, like around there, me and my sister, I think we did have to share a room. But obviously she was like growing into like preteen teen area,
yeah.
so she like pushed me away more because it's like oh it's her dumb little brother, you know. And I began to feel alone, and eventually we moved into my grandma's house that had like 9 people living in it
Mm,
at one time.
mm,
And sorry, we
okay.
all for all four of us, so me, my mom, my dad, and my sister, and two dogs. We all lived in one master bedroom
Mm,
inside the house for like 6 years, I think.
mm. In
And
Eastville?
no, in Orange County.
Orange County.
Yeah, so it was hard just because I was at least sharing a bed with my parents up until I was in high school. And like when I put it that way, it's like fucking hilarious. But it's interesting because I completely forgot about it now. Because look, bro, I'm in my I'm in my
Yeah,
fucking loft, dude.
yeah.
Life isn't so bad, you know.
It's like a little apartment up in here.
Yeah, it's like eventually you get over it. But
Yeah.
even with not even having my own room and having 9 people in my house, like
Mm,
there at one time, I still felt alone. And then even going into school, like I had my one friend, but eventually that friend became friends with other people, and I was
mm,
put to the wayside.
yeah,
And obviously, like I felt alone. And then as soon as like I began to find my football friends, everything hit, and obviously I moved away so I couldn't like really hang out with them.
mm,
And then I was stuck alone here, really alone, where it was like I don't have my grandma. I don't have my tias, my
yeah,
uncles to like at least be there physically.
yeah,
So I just like learned to like be able to like enjoy peaceful time by myself
yeah.
because I'm telling you like in that middle school like beginning of high school era,
Mm,
I would have an iPad set up playing like a YouTube video, have headphones with like people in a party kind of like talking in like PS4 kind of group chat thing,
yeah.
and then I would have the computer right next to me doing my homework. So it was like the most like stimulating thing ever, and I
Mm,
never had a chance to like think.
yeah,
And once you realize that you're like really alone and you get sad, like you kind of have to deal with it.
yeah,
And for the longest time I did deal with it. Like obviously like I would try, but I would just feel like I would start getting physically sick from it. So after I just like learned to like cope with it
yeah.
and eventually like tackle what I needed to had in my head,
Hmm.
and once I kind of made peace with everything I had like go on in my life, I was okay with kind of being alone by myself and enjoying like the quiet moments in life,
Hmm.
especially with like nature and exercise and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And that was like a big thing for me was like specifically going out in nature because like bro, have you seen like the hills and stuff around here, dude?
Hmm.
That was very like a peaceful time, especially like watching sunsets and like kind of having everything off,
Yeah,
and that reconnection kind of to nature and like with the actual world allowed me to be a little bit
yeah,
more quiet in my mind.
yeah. I feel like people nowadays, we get so busy, and like busyness, I feel like is a good and bad thing. One of the bad things being that you don't get to stop and enjoy like nature and the world. Um, because of the constant like go 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 on to the next, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But busyness in a good sense where it makes you productive and it helps you achieve your goals, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like where business busyness applies in my life is I used to be a workaholic like in middle school, not really in high school, but
Yeah.
but I was a workaholic because a lot of my self-value I had gotten from my grades and the work that I produced. Like my value was a product of what I created. You know what I mean? Of what I
Yeah.
produced.
Your values in those grades.
Yeah,
That's what I
basically.
had.
Basically, because I was also in the IB program at CFIS, so I was like a scholar. And actually, like my freshman year, guess what my GPA was?
4.5,
No,
5.0,
no, a little less than that.
4.8. I
I was
don't
at
know. I
four
don't
point.
know how high that goes, bro.
Okay, so I don't know if you can get a 5.0 like ever, but I don't know. But I had a 4.9 like my freshman year because I was in IB classes and I took hella dual enrollment.
Hmm.
So you knew like my work ethic was, but then I don't know. I feel like life experience and like high school and being a teenager kind of comes into play, and then my kind of grades like went kind of down. But anyways, I was saying that because in middle school, a lot of my worth was based off of like my grades and all that stuff.
Hmm.
And so that's where the business came in. I was really busy and I had no opportunity to stop and see the world around me and like what I'm doing and
Hmm.
like be proud a little bit of like, hey, like I'm doing it. I was always doing it like for my parents.
Yeah.
But again, like my parents, like I always sought support and like my parents being proud of me from them. But I reached a certain age where it's like I never really got that. And so because of that, it made me really independent and also a bitterness of like I kind of like hate everybody because I'm doing this all by myself. Like I'm super independent, all this. I don't need anybody, that kind of attitude, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
And you just don't. No one ever says I'm proud of you.
Yeah. Nope. And so
Yeah.
that's what I understand what you're saying. Where like it's really nice to have someone in your life to tell you that they're proud of you. Because for me, one of the biggest characteristics, like for a significant other, is support. Like, if you're not really the supportive type, like it ain't gonna work out. Because
Yeah.
for me, it's like really huge. Because I always feel like I'm doing everything on my own. Like, I, I work, I pay for my own things, like all this stuff. So when a man can enter into my life and like soften me a little bit and like take care of me, where I'm comfortable, like being more feminine and not super independent, because honestly with women like being super independent is a defense mechanism of like I don't need you to take care of me, I can do it on my own. And so when a man can like have be so like can lead and show his masculine side of like I will take care of you, it's a really nice thing, and it's really important for me because I don't want to have to be super hyper independent all the time, and.
Yeah, that's the big thing that a lot of like I see in relationships that like mess up. And I found as more that I leaned into taking care of someone and not in like the caring for someone, but just
Mhm.
like leading them and
Yeah.
kind of giving them direction. A lot of the times that they will take care of you in like the aspect of like if you need food, I'll take care of you.
Like,
If you're tired, I'll take care of
and
you.
I'm such a romantic, like, I will say it because, I feel like I know how guys like should treat a girl and also of how a girl should respect her man. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? But what's something super important to you about relationships? Like, what's some qualities that you're like, yeah, they have to have this and this, or it's like not gonna work out.
Dynamics, bro. It's never been like, oh, she fucking cleans for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like anyone can learn how to do that, but
Hmm.
it's like, when people are very receptive to you, especially just about life, and they understand like who you are better than like honestly sometimes you,
Hmm.
and that's my big thing because I had to like learn it my like from my parents and kind of around me is that um a book that I read, I ended up giving it to Cade. I had it on the wall. That
Hmm.
was my favorite book like of all time, and I gave it to Cade. It's called The Way of the Superior Man. And this book, dude, I had this book in high school.
Hmm.
People opened of it. People like saw it like on the trainer's room, and then someone thought it said how to be a superior man, and I was made fun of it for like 2 months during practices. They're like, "Hey, are you trying to be a superior man?" I'm like, "Bro, that's like the first couple of times I was like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about? Like just
Yeah.
talking shit." But eventually, like I was like, bro, okay, why are you like? There's no need for you to talk shit. So I was like,
Yeah.
I stopped caring.
I don't know why guys do that. Like, why do guys do that?
I don't know. I don't talk shit.
Yeah.
Like there's no. You don't even feel better about it. You just
I
go
feel like guys
focus.
always pick on each other's egos. You know what I mean?
I think there's a fine line between like talking shit on each other like friends and then like straight talking shit on each other just because like you hate the person.
Yeah.
And that's like that's obviously kind of how you see it, but
Mm.
that's my like the thing that I learned.
Mm.
But from that book, a lot of the things that I learned was like what makes you happiest is kind of the big three things were reconnecting with nature,
Mm.
striving towards like a goal every day, like having a reason you wake up every day,
Mm.
and having someone in your life that's the complementary opposite of you.
Yeah.
And what I mean by complementary opposite is if you're a man who's very purpose driven and like masculine in a sense, where it's like you're focused on the goal and like being better,
Mm.
a lot of the times you'll attract someone who's very feminine and like loves taking like a motherly role in a
Mm.
sense, or it's like someone that like loves like taking care of you in a sense, but not
Mm.
like in a way you both take care of each other, but it's
Yeah.
in completely different aspects. And
Mm.
you learn that when you're on this side of the spectrum you need someone who's on this side of the spectrum,
Yeah.
or else you're very heavy on one side.
Yeah.
And I found that with myself, when I don't find like have someone to balance me out properly,
Mm.
I'm honestly like an asshole, and like I don't care about people's feelings as much, and I'm very blunt with things.
Yeah. You ever hear that saying, assholes never die?
No, never heard that.
It just came to mind, but continue.
Yeah, and I find myself being very disrespectful, like not even just to be mean, but it's like I sometimes I need like a girl to say like why are you being so like why are you being like this, and like
Mm.
someone to kind of like show you love and to show you like you don't
Yeah.
need to do that all the time.
Yeah.
And kind of like those kinds of women are very much like will get taken advantage of, but not in like the in a disrespectful way,
Yeah.
in a way that like people will kind of use them for what they need to and then be done with them, just because they don't realize like what kind of a person this is and
Yeah.
how rare they are. And when you attract those kinds of people, you create like a very healthy relationship dynamic.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times you're not even it's very rare that those people find themselves attracted to someone who's like them,
Mm.
because if people are on this side of the spectrum they attract to each other, just like how people in the middle of the spectrum where they're kind of both
Mm.
are attracted to each other.
Yeah.
But if you're in the middle of the spectrum you're too similar, you know. So where it's like a guy who's very feminine and masculine and he's right in the middle, and a girl who's very masculine and feminine, and they get together, it just doesn't work. And a lot
Mm.
of people will say, oh, he's like, oh, we're together because he's like my best friend. Well, it's like you guys are the exact same person, so
Mhm.
you don't really need each other. So
Yeah.
what's the point of being together? And that's why the relationship sucked.
Yeah.
And I find those dynamics even like to this day. I see people where I'm like, damn, like I can't say anything because like if someone's happy, who am I to like talk shit on their
Like
happiness?
on like other people's relationships.
Yeah, and like where I see it and I'm like, I'm not gonna be like, bro, what the fuck? Like, why'd you do? Like, why are you dating this person?
Mm.
It's like, bro, isn't if you're, I say it, but like, not even like talk shit. I'm like, as long as you're happy, bro. It's like such a
I hate
shit talking word.
I hate like that phrase, as long as you're
As long as you're
happy.
happy, bro.
I feel like that's some bull because I mean, there are lots of things that'll make people happy that are not good for them.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. Drugs make you happy, man.
Yeah. But the difference between joy and happiness, where happiness is just like an instant feeling, whatever, but joy is a continuous feeling despite life circumstances. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And striving for joy instead of happiness, or happiness like more temporary, I feel like it's something like I've been trying to do recently.
I strive for purpose, dude.
Mm,
I've never like recently, like before, no, like yeah, honestly, like these past like until like a year ago,
mm.
I was striving for happiness, and that's what a lot of people strive for, like
Yeah,
pleasure and
just
like
instant gratification. Yeah,
yeah, in like especially relationships and things like that.
yeah,
And I found myself doing that, and I look back on that time where it's like, oh, I get all these bitches. Like, what do you get, bro?
yeah,
You get like that has nothing. You feel like shit, number one, and then number two, you got with someone who gets with anyone.
yeah. Like, what is
And
that? You know?
exactly. So you're chasing all that instead of chasing something that's gonna make you happier in the long end.
Hmm.
Which is like I'm happy right now. I'm talking to you. I'm living life. I
Yeah,
get to edit videos. I get to
yeah.
take pictures. I get to cut hair. I get to do so many different things.
Mm,
And the life that I created, it makes me happy. It's
mm,
not. I don't need to find it somewhere else.
yeah.
And like now, especially with relationships, before I used to fight so much, and like when I say before, I mean like very recently.
Mm,
Before I would always kind of say, hey, if you I'm gonna keep on trying until you say you don't want to be with me anymore.
mm,
And I kind of what I learned now is if someone does want to be with you, they're gonna show it and they're gonna make as much effort as you are.
yeah,
Other than that, there's no really point, man. You're wasting a lot of the energy for no reason, you know?
yeah.
And it sucks to hear, especially with like the future that you plan with people,
Yeah.
and eventually you do have those thoughts where it's like, I see myself with this person for a really long time,
Mhm.
but after it's kind of all said and done, you really don't feel like crying anymore, man. You're just like it kind of is what it is, and
Mhm.
you I've I felt more recently where it's like I have too much shit to kind of feel bad and cry about.
Mhm.
And even when I do have like times where I feel hatred in my heart towards people,
Mhm.
and I feel like I want to shut out the world. I find myself just going to like go work out or something like that, and I
Mhm.
calm down and I reassess my life and I go from there.
Mhm.
And I've never really let myself in the more recent times to like just feel like bad because of other people.
Yeah.
And I do see it happen from time to time still, but I find myself catching it more often than not,
Mhm.
and I'm able to snap out of it quicker because I know, like, I don't know if you know that like you feel this way, but whenever kind of someone puts you in a bad mood, even like in the beginning of the day, your whole like a lot of people's day is ruined.
Yeah.
And I find myself like feeling like that, and then even a couple minutes later after it happens, I feel like why do I feel like this? And I find myself talking to myself more, and that's like a big thing that I find myself with, and that's
Mhm.
why I can be alone
Mhm.
because I talk to myself, dude. I find I find happiness with myself,
Yeah.
and sometimes I feel like the happiness that I put into other people, and it doesn't, and people are receptive to it, but after they aren't, like it just crushes me.
Mhm.
Versus like where it's like I'm doing all this for you and you just don't even appreciate it,
Mhm.
and eventually I learned that's like some people just either they don't like take it as well as you do,
Mhm.
so like they can give you what they want, but like they're loving you in the way that they know how to.
Mhm.
And number two is that sometimes they don't even perceive it as big of a thing as you do.
Mhm.
So it's like the way that you kind of perceive reality isn't what it is for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like people are gonna be who they are. Like you are really intentional with your friendships and you crave like depth and substance with the people that you're around. And then when you care for them, you want them to like see it and reciprocate it. Some people don't have that like understanding or don't reciprocate that kind of like relational connection. And that's just
Mhm.
like how they are. And that's okay. But I feel like sometimes the hard thing is like accepting that. Like, you know how we talked about earlier when people show you who they are, like believe it. Like to keep trying on a relationship or a friendship, trying to make them or like trying to have them connect to you in the way you connect to them sometimes like doesn't work out.
Mhm.
And like I was watching a TikTok today and it's one of those things where it's like, oh, like what's the saddest thing somebody has ever told you? And it was like it's anonymous. They put like in a fishbowl and this one guy said that he proposed to his girlfriend. She's like the woman of his dreams. And when he proposed, literally on one knee, ready to propose, she said, no, I don't love you the way that you love me. And now she's getting married to somebody else and he hasn't been able to date since. And that really like shook me like, damn, because like the idea of people seeking out relationship connections with people and it's not fully reciprocated back. You
Mhm.
know what I mean?
That's like a big fear. I used to have too.
Oh, it's a fear for you.
Oh fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That shit is,
Tell me about it.
dude. Especially if you, dude, if you're ugly like me, like
You're not ugly.
okay, but not like where I want to be.
Okay, I guess.
Yeah. So
You're not
where?
ugly.
Yeah. Sure. Especially no, trust me. Like when I grow out my hair, I'll trust me. Just give it time.
Okay,
Um,
whatever.
the way. Fuck. See, I lost my train of thought.
Why?
Something about putting eggs on all your eggs in one basket.
Okay.
So um, the way that the way that it was explained, you explained it to me, it made it seem like, oh, this guy is like a regular guy kind of working. He found this girl and it was like, oh my gosh, she was the one for
Yeah.
me. And now that she's gone, like I don't love anyone
Mm,
else. And that's just kind of, to me, it's very dumb. And to me, where it's like it's weird, right, that we perceive like reality so different.
mm,
Because to me, if you put everything into one relationship and it doesn't work out and people think that she's my everything, she's all I have nothing. Well,
yeah.
that's true if you believe it. Versus if you have like work, you have your health, you
Yeah.
have like your looks, you have different aspects of life, and you're more of like a well-rounded person
Yeah.
versus kind of putting it all, essentially all your eggs in one basket with this person,
Mm,
to saying I'm depending on this person for the rest of my life to be happy.
yeah.
That's how you lose everything.
Yeah.
And I learned that a couple times. And once you learn that, especially like now that cheating is very prevalent with people and
Mm,
divorce rates are very high,
yeah.
it's not because people don't love each other anymore. It's that just people don't want to fight for each other anymore, you know.
Yeah.
And that's something that my coach Crush told me.
Mm,
And he said so many people will give up nowadays. So many people will kill themselves like just because they just can't anymore.
yeah. I just can't take it.
Yeah. And I know recently about someone close to me, one of my sister's friends had her brother um pass away
Mm,
in by himself, like he did it himself.
mm,
And the reason that he gave was because issues with his wife. And Coach Chris told me this, and I find a lot of my wisdom, especially recently, from him.
mm,
And I do look for him like a lot, and I haven't really been able to talk to him. I still really need to look for him. But the two big things that he told me were you're gonna have those bad days, and everyone has those bad days.
mm,
And I talked to him. This was the one from the house that I haven't posted yet, and this is why I don't think I will. I was going through another breakup at the time,
mm,
and I found myself crying like just kind of like down the street from their house, and I was crying so hard, and it was so hot that I ended up passing out. And the sunroof, like the shade was open, so you could see through the glass, and I just ended up falling asleep. And then the thing that woke me up was a light.
mm,
And the thing that I noticed when I got out was that the light was only shining at my thing, like at me,
mm.
and everything around it was clouds.
Wow.
And I saw the picture of it, and the more and more I found myself not to turn it into a religious thing,
No, go
because so
ahead.
many people find it very hard to talk about religion,
I
but
don't.
no,
Do you?
absolutely not.
Let's talk about it.
That's my thing. Like things have become so much better now that I've had a more personal relationship with God,
Yeah.
because especially growing up, you're like, oh, I go to church. This is
Yeah.
my religion,
Yeah.
versus exploring religion for what it is,
100%.
and coming to the end of it and realizing you are like the relationship that you have with God isn't bound to certain things,
Mm.
but you go to these places like the church and the mosque
Yeah.
to hear the stories and how people perceive them,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, the people in the church, the pastors, the cantors, the what's the Jewish thing, um it's not it's not pastors, fuck, what is it,
Priest,
not priest, um
Pope.
no, is it cancer?
I have no
I
idea.
think it's cancer. Cancer, like the guys with little beards.
Something like that. I don't
Yeah.
know.
All these people, they provide the word of God, but in the human aspect,
Yeah.
because no one really knows how God kind of speaks unless he speaks to you directly.
Mm.
And so many people say you need to go to the church from that, but the way that I go to church and I experience it, the way that especially Catholic and Christian churches,
Mm.
they'll read you kind of the sermon, and then they'll give you the lesson.
Mm.
And every Sunday you are given like a lesson.
Yeah.
And I know a big one that I had was that like kind of changed my life was minimalism. And so many people will have so many different things, and they'll keep so many physical things around, even like especially it's found in poor people that
Mm.
hoard so much because they just can't give.
Mm.
And in the Bible it says the more that you give, the more that you are given.
And
And
that's so true. I'll share a little bit about that after, but go
yeah,
ahead.
and I found myself like in my life not giving enough of what I have to other people, number
Mm.
one, and number two, kind of not only with that being physical things, but my knowledge as well, because if you're hating and you're pushing everyone out from your world,
Mm.
you're hoarding all your things instead of sharing it with the world. And
Mm.
a lot of that goes back to photography and all the things like that, because so many people are beautiful, and so many like not like to like fucking kiss ass or anything like that,
No.
but it's like the more you see people, even if they're not physically attractive, these people do have beautiful stories.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you a story, but I want to hear what you say about more as give and take.
Yeah. So I definitely agree with early, everything that you just said. There's I came to a certain point, probably like in high school, when I realized the difference between a religion and a relationship with God. Because I grew up Christian, my parents are Christian, brought me to church every day and everything like that. And just being comfortable in where you're at and start like building that real relationship with God where it's one-on-one, where you can talk directly to him and he'll talk directly to you, where like you don't have to go to a certain person or be in a certain place to be in relationship with him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I it was honestly recently where I really started to grow my relationship with God. It was probably after my breakup because that was a really pivotal moment in my life where I was like, shoot, like everything I kind of planned like just didn't work out.
You're like, what do I have?
Yeah. And so after that breakup, I felt like I had no attachment to anything. Like I didn't feel attached to money. I didn't feel attached to boys. I didn't feel attached to friends or like successes or grades or anything like that. And I kind of was just like full surrender. And I was like, all right, God, like I really got nothing holding me back right now. I give you my life and I fully surrendered to you. And I just pray that you just use me in whatever way that you had planned for me, you know? And it's been a beautiful, beautiful process. And like I would love to talk about it more another time. But what I wanted to tell you was when you said the more that you give, God provides. And it's like so true because one thing that I started doing recently was tithing. So that's basically like that you give 10% of your income to God as a way of showing you like what I make is yours. Like everything you've given me is from you anyway. So I trust you with my finances, just like how you trust God with like any other aspect in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hadn't done that before. So I did that, right? Prayed over it, thank God, because in the line of work that I do in nonprofits, like it's very much supported in such beautiful ways. But anyways, so I tithe, right? And then the next day, you know, I'm just working, whatever. And then my boss talks to me about like, hey, like, do you want to work more hours? Like, there's availability for you to come in more if you want to do more. I said, yeah, I do. And so literally I trusted God with my finances, not knowing what was gonna happen. Literally the next day I had more opportunity to work and God provided financially because now I'm making more. And I was just like, it's so interesting the way God works with money and the way they're able to like give. And okay, one more story. So I went on a missions trip in January with my family and my parents at first like were not like they had the chances like not being able to go because they didn't have enough money to go. And then so they told like the pastor that we were going with, like, oh, I don't know, we can go, like, we don't got enough. And she was like, honestly, like if God wants you to go, he'll make it happen. So pray about it. And we're like, okay. Literally that same day, my dad's boss, he told my dad told his boss about it, about the mission trip. And the boss said, whatever you fundraise, I will match it. And we ended up making more than we needed for the missions trip. And we're all able to go. And it was a beautiful time. But like the Lord really does provide in ways that you're able to give. And sometimes it's hard to see it, but it's that sense of like, all right, God, like if I say I want a relationship with you, I'm going to trust you. And he doesn't fall short of any of that, you know? But yeah,
And
that's where they're at.
yeah, the way that you explain that to me, I think it's very much different from the way that I learned to have a relationship with God, because you pray a lot. And to me, the way that I see prayer is more like listening to God.
Mm,
And I find myself not asking him for things, but
yeah.
asking him to give me the knowledge to know what to do in this life.
Yeah. That's good.
And I found myself studying the Bible not from a religious standpoint, not from believing everything that they said is real,
Yeah.
but taking the lessons that each of these people have written down, and
Mm,
everyone has agreed upon that this book has survived
yeah.
thousands of years
Yeah.
as an educational piece of content,
Yeah.
because so many people nowadays are like, there's no way that this guy split the sea and took people out of Egypt. There's no way Jesus spent 40 days and 40 nights in the middle of the desert. There's no way this guy rose from the dead.
Yeah.
It's like you don't have to believe everything that's in the Bible, but there are lessons that you can take that can translate to your life very well.
Sure. Yeah.
And the two big things that I've had in my life whenever I find the connection with God was that,
Mm,
and just my relationships as well with mentors, like people I learned from,
yeah.
especially in business and different aspects like that,
Mm,
and forgiving people. The two big things I learned to be so receptive and loving to the world
mm,
were one that I told you, but the first one I believe is Luke 24:34. Forgive them, Father, for they not know what they
yeah.
do.
They do.
And is that what it is? That
It
correct?
is. I think so.
There you
I mean,
go.
it's different translation, but yeah.
Yeah. Um, and that's what I learned about people, because there's so much hatred in the world, and so many people that just hate for no reason, and so many
Yeah.
people that follow so many different things.
Yeah.
And if you were given all the knowledge by God, then these people wouldn't make mistakes, but they
Mm,
haven't.
mm-hmm.
So you can't blame them for something that they don't know.
Yeah.
And a big thing is the big thing that I tell people, especially I said in my last relationship that you don't know like how certain people feel about like looking through the phone, or like how they feel about certain people, where
Mm,
and I said you don't know what you don't know,
mm-hmm.
where it's like you don't know how something makes someone feel,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't get mad at them because they didn't know, you
Yeah.
know. And that goes back to that. And another thing that I learned about forgiveness, especially with the people, and I told you this before,
Yeah.
all these lessons come back to me, and they're things that I go back over and over again because I honestly do forget them in daily life,
Mm,
is the fact that Jesus knew that Judas was going to betray him. And
yeah.
we had this talk, modern day game, right?
I don't know.
Well, one of the
It's one of the
games.
games.
And and you learn that Jesus was able to sit and he was able to feast and enjoy
Mm,
his final supper with all his apostles, but also with the person that he knew was going to betray him.
yeah.
And in the paradoxical way, the biggest thing that Judas did to serve God was to betray God, because in the prophecy it said that someone will betray him.
Mhm.
So to follow God, he had to betray God.
Mm.
In the way that I perceived it in life is that some people will do you wrong and do you dirty, but eventually they'll end up creating something better for you.
Yeah.
And that's what I've taken from that.
Yeah.
And especially carrying things like dating and marriage with an idea of God there with it, it creates so much more beauty in those
Yeah,
things.
100%. And I love how you reference that verse because, like, just to give context of that verse, literally Jesus was on the cross or like getting beat or something, and he literally cries out to God, like, forgive them for they don't know what they do, you know? And it's like literally the Son of God is literally saying, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. That is the kind of grace that is like beyond comprehension. How could you be so betrayed by the people that you love, that you literally gave your life for, and yet plead for them to be forgiven because they don't know what they're doing? And it's like, as followers of Christ, to have to like be in a posture to have that kind of forgiveness and grace is like something to strive for. But it's like, yeah, like Jesus, I'm sure I've done several things in my life that's against his will, that I've rejected God many times thinking that I know better than him, that I don't need him in my life, whatever. But it's like, yeah, he's forgiven me every time. And
Right.
he pursues me every time. And he's been there for me every time when I'm there and like reaching back out to him. Like, he's never far away, even though it feels like it. It's just that mental barrier of either feeling like, oh, you're just not real, or like, I don't really trust you 100%, or I don't know if I'm like worthy of all this. Like, real, like, no, like it's all available for you like 24/7. But like, and that relating to forgiveness, like being able to forgive people in that sense is beautiful, but it's difficult because that's our human nature. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah. And like another thing that I did like go back to a lot was the thing of give and take. What is taken is given, and what is given is taken.
Yeah, that's in Job.
I believe.
Oh.
I'm not sure.
Well, I'm referencing, it's like, I think it's in Job. It's in Job. I don't know the chapter, but it's the Lord has given and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. But
Exactly. And it's not as a religious thing where it's like God is physically taking these things away from you, but it's the way I think of it now is in the actions that you do
mm,
are given back to you, whether that's in like physical actions that you do among people
mm,
or spiritual acts. And whenever I think about it, I think about myself past, like being very, not to describe it as promiscuous, but like not being very loyal to certain people and
mm,
saying when I'm with you you have my everything,
mm,
and when you're very iffy about things it comes back to bite you. And
mm.
it's not karma, because I don't like the very karmic thing,
No.
but it's like you learn what's right and wrong, whether it's from God or it's if it's happens enough to you.
Yeah.
And damn. And after all that, it's like everything that you do will come back around to you. And so many people don't notice that, but I noticed that even for things that I did like 2 years ago, I feel
Mm.
like I'm still paying for it till this day until I learn.
Like what?
Just like relationships and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in like not romantic relationships, but also relationships with like people around me and how I treat people,
Yeah.
because like it goes back to the beginning, people will never forget how you treat them.
Mm,
And even now, as I've seen myself change so much over these past 2 years,
mm.
so many people perceive me as such back then, and
Yeah.
it goes back to the whole thing, people will only show you what they want to show you.
Yeah.
And when you want to make that change, it's so hard for people to make that change.
Yeah.
But it's I feel like I'm a testament to where it's like people can actually change, where it's like, and that's why I have so much love for so many people in the world.
Mm,
And it's very hard to see in the people. All this comes back to me, like all of it circles around very much religion and forgiving people for not understanding what they don't know.
yeah.
And all these things kind of wrap up into show like how I view the world in a loving
Yeah.
way. And not to like beat a dead horse and keep on saying what I keep on saying, but the whole reason I love I love is a strong word. Like if you know me, and I tell this to so many people, I have not said I love you to like anyone in my life in like 4 years, seriously, and it's bad.
Why not?
It's just something that I don't I like. I found myself stopping one day, and I just never did again,
Mm.
and that caused me harm. Even now, and it's like all those things that I never did back then, I'm paying for even now to this day,
Mm.
and the way that I see so much love for all these people in the world, that even the people that hate me, hate what I'm doing, hate on like anything that I make, it's still like I don't have any hate for these people, because
Yeah.
it's like, maybe what if it is true, number one, but where are they getting this from?
Yeah, that's true. And like understanding that everyone is trying to live a good life. Like whether they are or aren't, or whether they are deciding to make these bad decisions or not, like everyone at the end of the day wants purpose. Like something that really all connects all of us is that we're all human, which is like so like duh. But like everybody just wants to feel like they matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so I really resonated with what you said about like they just like don't know, because I used to like hold this grudge against particular girl because like she basically homewrecked. I'm not gonna get to the details of it.
that's the thing too. Before we go back on
Yeah, go ahead.
that, like life, I just want to touch on this like really quick, because like we're gonna finish soon,
Mm,
but I think this is something that we can go more depth on,
mm.
because on my views on social media, like I hate when the person that I'm with is on it, and I hate when I'm on it.
On social media?
Yeah, and it's weird, right? Because I do all this, number one, and number two, I share my life
Mm,
on social media, even if it's like shitty things.
okay.
So it's my double edged sword.
Yeah.
But the way that you said, like you did dirt, you were done dirty,
Yeah.
but you were in Cancun and you were posting that you were happy in Cancun.
What was happening in Cancun?
Okay, fuck. Okay, never mind then. But people, you never know what people are going through,
Oh
like on
yeah.
Instagram. But
Yeah,
go
no,
back.
I feel like it's another thing too, because I feel like nowadays I feel like social media should not be a representation, like people shouldn't see social media as a representation of people's lives, because really like people do social media as a job now. You know what I mean?
It's kind of our job.
I
But
mean, kind
yeah,
of, yeah. But like these influencers who like post all these really great things, like it's supposed to be engaging. Like obviously a lot of them like are real and transparent, but some of them aren't, and like that's fine. Like they just do it as a job. They don't
yeah.
want to share their personal lives. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
there's an authenticity about it, and that's what
Yeah.
so many people tell me, that why they resonate with the things that I say, even if it's like not a lot of people that follow me,
Mm,
like the 5 people that say, "Oh, I resonate with your things because I struggle with something very
mm,
similar."
yeah.
It's something that, to me, it's something that not only will attract them, but will provide them with a little insight, because so many times people in breakups and people who are depressed feel lonely,
Mm,
and when people like hear stories about people who go through the same things,
mm,
and you learn that the human experience is all similar, that you don't feel alone, and you realize that these people make it through these things, and nobody shares like the shitty things that they go through,
yeah.
and it's a hit on your ego, obviously,
Yeah.
because you're publicly admitting that, oh, I fucking suck at this, oh, I'm not good at this, but so many people, that's how real life is, and so
Yeah.
many people don't share it,
Yeah.
and so many more people resonate with that than kind of realizing that you're perfect in every single sense,
Yeah.
you know?
And I can confidently say that I'm nowhere near perfect, but I love that you say that, because that's exactly why we're doing like these podcasts, to share our stories, to share the maybe not so pretty sides about our lives, in hopes of just being that relatability, the relatable point of someone else, and to be like, hey, like I'm not the only one, like as corny as it sounds.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's how we conflict on views too. To you, it's you resonating with the people outside, and to me, it's resonating with myself. And this is why I find myself journaling about my life in sometimes,
mm,
and I find myself like I look back at my old journals from 2 years ago, writing about this person, and I'm like, dude, this kid was so happy,
mm,
and I was like, fuck, dude. But that's what videos are. That's what people like. That's what you have. It's a reminder to yourself. You look back on a couple years and like, this is how I was. This is how I acted. This is how I
yeah.
resonated with
Oh my
people.
gosh, I resonate with that so much, because You're really strong for looking back at that journal because I actually have videos that I took of myself, like from as I was meeting my ex to getting to know him and in the relationship, I literally made vlogs of myself, like in my reactions to him. Because I wasn't gonna tell him like how I felt about him, like what? So I would record myself like talking about how I felt about him and like the excitement, all this stuff. And I have not looked at them since we broke up
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want to see that. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like if I see that, it's like sad. Like, dang, like she was so happy and
Ignorance is
excited.
bliss.
Yeah, and she had no idea that all this would happen after that and like what she would have to go through after that to like heal from it. And it was like, oh my gosh, don't get emotional right now. But yeah, ignorance is bliss. And I feel like things happen in your life and it kind of makes you stronger and all that kind of stuff. But like to look back at when you were younger or when you were like really happy to see how things have changed, like good and bad. Like I'm still very happy. Like, but it's like there was a different type of
There's a different type of happiness you find with another person,
yeah,
where it's like this person fully accepts you for who
yeah,
you are and all the mistakes that you made.
yeah.
And even if you fuck up, even if you're not perfect, even if you break down to them, they still love you. And
Yeah.
that feeling is something that you can't be like it's something that people will like die for. People will pay millions of dollars for.
Yeah.
And that's what's the scariest thing,
About
especially
relationships.
not about relationships, but at the end of relationships,
Mm,
because it's always that you invested so much into
yeah.
yourself with this person, and you never like you always wonder if it'll happen again,
Mm-hmm.
and you're always like, what if it never does?
Yeah. Yeah. And that kind of void of like that like kind of love and acceptance was there for a little bit. And I feel like the key to moving on is like or the key for like myself and like what for me was like how to feel that but like with healthier ways of like investing more in your friendships. I feel like now like I have so like my relationship with my friends, my family is so fulfilling to me that I don't feel like I need a boyfriend to make me feel that way anymore.
Hmm.
Like for me now it's like I feel like I'm open to a relationship again, but just like not right now because I don't feel like I am like strong enough emotionally to potentially go through another breakup. Because for me, like when I'm in a relationship, like I will be the best girlfriend. I'm gonna give a lot because why would I want a half-ass relationship? Because for me, like I love hard and I hurt hard, but then I move on. Like that's kind of how it is. Because I don't want to just half-ass a relationship and then we break up and like I'm kind of fine because I guarded my heart. Like if I'm
Yeah.
gonna love, like I'm gonna love you well, you know?
Exactly, and that was my big thing too with the last relationship. I never wanted to wonder what if I tried, what if I showed
Yeah.
her how I really felt. Like that's why I'm very at peace with things. Like at the end of the day, I showed this person that I loved them, I cared for them, I did everything for them. I
Mm,
was willing to sacrifice so many different things to make it work. And at the end of the day, if they didn't want to accept that and they said I don't want to be with you anymore, I can be okay with that because they didn't want any of it anyway.
yeah. And it
And
has no reflection on you.
exactly, I'm still alive, man.
Yep. We still alive. We still doing good. We still here.
Exactly, man.
Yeah. We'll
Life
find
is good.
somebody. Yeah. Life's good.
I've never like I don't know, man.
But
The relation. We always go back to relationships. I find
well, I feel like the
just
world
because
like
I
runs
am.
on relationships, like with friends or people you work with.
Yeah, but we go back to romantic
Oh,
relationships,
that's
G.
true.
But I think the fact of the matter is that I feel like that's the fact that we conflict on that so much is a big reason why we hear each other out. Because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like the way that we love in the same way, but it's not in the same aspect because
Mm,
they're polar opposites.
mm,
You love the same way I do, but as a woman, in the way that I do as a man,
yeah.
and that's why I think is a big way the big reason why as a dynamic, and even though we're completely opposite in so many other things, that so many different times we're just like, hey bro, you good?
Yeah.
And that's why with like so many relationships, it's like I can't move on, dude, honestly.
You?
Nah, like I still think about people from years ago. I still think about shit, because you're always like, dude, what if? But I feel like the when you minimize those what ifs, like I've been trying to do recently, you can be more content with life.
Mm.
Because the way that I was thinking at the time, I was thinking, if I'm not doing it for this person, what am I doing it for, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why am I in this, why am I taking this job? Why am I pursuing this career? Why am I doing all these videos, you know?
Yeah.
And I put so much of myself into this person to where it's like I need this person to keep on pushing me forward because
Mm.
that's what they were doing.
Mm.
And as soon as I found it out and I was able to do it by myself, it's like they kind of treated me like shit, G.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't need to deal with that, bro.
Yeah.
If this person comes back in my life, they better come correct, you know? I
Yeah.
don't, I can't, it's very hard for me to not be angry at it, but I can't be disrespectful. That's the one thing I can't do.
Mm.
Like, that's the one thing I hate the most, disrespect towards people.
Mm.
And when I minimize that in myself, it's very good.
Mm.
But I find myself being an asshole when I don't have someone to balance me out, especially like a woman.
Yeah.
That's why I find myself like that.
Yeah.
But um just trying to find that in other
Yeah.
aspects, in like career and shit.
Yeah. And like with moving on, I feel like what's important is to remember like why it ended.
Yeah.
Like why did it end? And sometimes like I'm not gonna lie, like I think about that sometimes too, like dang, like it really ended. And I'll catch myself thinking about it, but I gotta remind myself like why did it end? And these are things I can't live with. Like why would I want to go back to that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because it's what you know.
Yeah.
I feel like as soon as you get in that relationship, that's all you know, man. It's to know how to be loved by that one person.
Yeah.
And you kind of shut everyone else out because that's what you do in a relationship.
Yeah.
But after that, you kind of need to be receptive to the world.
Yeah.
And I learned that especially in relationships, like,
Mm.
because obviously you're like, no, um, before I found myself fully loyal, I found myself in the way that it's said in the Bible, you lust for other people,
Mm.
but when you love someone correctly, the Lord takes lust away from your eyes,
Mm.
and that's what love. That's when you know love is real.
Mm.
And I just recently learned what love really was,
Yeah.
and by definition, I think so many people have love very fucked up.
Mm.
And the way I figured out love was, at the end of the day, it's you don't have to be attracted to this person. Like, some days, like, you may even like not even want to like the person. Like, sometimes you're fucking irritated with this
Yeah.
person, but at the end of the day, like, if you look at them and you realize like what they bring and like what you have together, you realize you don't want anyone else like next to you, kind of going through life.
Mm.
That's when you know you love someone. It's
Yeah.
not like based on emotion.
No, it's not. And I feel like that's something that gets people mixed up and why people don't work out. It's because they love based on emotion.
Yeah.
Obviously, your emotion fluctuates, but love is a choice. Like marriages work out because they choose to love each other. Because obviously, you grow old, like you probably gain some weight, you get comfortable, but it's that decision of like, no, like I choose to love them still. Like I choose to have a good marriage. I choose to show up.
I choose to fight,
Yeah, you choose to fight.
and no one wants to do that anymore. And I'll only fight as much as you want to, man.
Yeah.
And that's what I've learned. Like, I'll I'll fight till the end, but if they don't want to, who am I fighting with?
Yeah, and also like that's an interesting thing because my relationship ended because I stopped fighting. Now, from his perspective, it's probably like, oh, she gave up on me. But I literally stopped fighting because I literally could not take it anymore. Because when you guys are fighting constantly, you guys don't know how to resolve conflict with each other. It's fighting towards nothing. And if
You're just waiting for the next argument.
yes, you're waiting for the next argument, and it puts such a burden on your heart where it got really bad for me. And like, you get emotionally drained so bad, emotionally drained, emotionally checked out, where like, you just know being around them, you just are waiting for the next thing to tick them, or you guys are gonna fight about something, and it's just like it's going nowhere. Like we're not growing with each other, and we're not working. Like we can't handle this conflict. We can't, you know what I mean? And I literally could not keep fighting anymore. Like it was too much on me emotionally. Like I was getting ill. Like I was losing weight because I was so stressed. I was getting highs because I was getting so stressed because our fights. Like it was bad. Like I have not. My mental health was bad. Like all of it, right? And I just like couldn't anymore. You know.
Hmm.
And it's like, is this supposed to be what it's like? Like, is this what being ride or die means? And if it is, then I don't want any part of it. And yeah, so that was a decision I made. And obviously it wasn't like the decision that he wanted. And
Yeah.
it was really hard because it's really hard to like break up with someone that you wanted to marry originally, you know?
Yeah.
And like we always talked about like, oh, like maybe one day we'll get back together. But like the way that he handled the breakup showed his true self. And when people show you their true self, you believe it. And it's like, yeah, he did out of anger and stuff, but the way you handle anger will show up in our relationship, in our marriage or something, you know?
Exactly.
So
Some people, in especially in abusive relationships, I'm just gonna use it as an extreme. If you see in an abusive relationship, like people who end up beating their dog do end up beating like their significant
mm-hmm.
others. And to like what you just said resonated with me so much because that's the reason my relationship ended. It was just constant arguing.
Mm-hmm.
But I figured out I'm not supposed to be arguing with the person that's supposed to help me argue with the world.
Mm,
And I figured that out, but a little bit too late. And sometimes I do think about it where it's like, why how could you not have not seen that? But I just didn't know. You
yeah.
don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. And we were both so young. Like, I mean, we're still young. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't hate him. Like, honestly, I have not. It's so weird thinking about him like this because I try not to because, yeah. But I have not talked to him since like we broke up. Like, we were still in contact, but we had to. I like blocked him and stuff because of just the way he acted. Like, he could not be cordial after the breakup, even though I could.
Hmm.
So then I haven't talked to him since. But honestly, like I have no hatred towards him. I have no hatred towards him or the girl who home wrecked. I've forgiven both of them, and if I were to see him again, it wouldn't be like out of hate or anything. Like sometimes I wonder like how he's doing, but I don't want to invite that conversation because I don't want him to think like, oh, she wants me back or whatever, because I don't know how he would take it, and
Hmm.
I don't like want to go pursue him again. But I have peace with it,
Yeah.
you know.
I think when you make peace with everything in your life, you can live peacefully.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, this may be my ego or my narcissism talking, but it's hard to find another person like me, man.
Yeah. And that attitude is like true. And I feel the same way about myself. And, you know, like if he does find someone, he dates somebody else, it's better for him.
Yeah,
She works better for him. And that has no reflection on myself. You know what I mean?
exactly. Just like how uh, he'll never find another you, she'll never find another me.
Yeah.
In the aspect of what I do, maybe she'll find someone that looks like me, maybe similar personality, but everything that I have and everything that I will have will just she'll probably never get back, man.
Yeah.
And like I think about it and I'm like, I do kind of want it to be back,
Mm,
but I don't think this way who this person is will like if they like kind of understand life for what it is and
mm,
you get on the same page, maybe it'll work,
yeah.
but maybe it doesn't, man. And if at the end of the day all that happens, who knows, maybe I end up growing more and they grow exponentially.
Yeah.
But once you get on, I'm not going to slow down for this person.
Yeah.
And if I grow to where I want to go in the coming months and years, and she gets to where she needs to be because you kind of have your like business and what you want to do in career and like
Mm,
school, and then you have your love and mental health and relationship.
mm-hmm.
And if she puts more effort here and I'm still kind of focused on here and I'm still on this kind of level, then maybe it'll work out. But if not,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. That's true.
Mm.
Go ahead.
Oh no, you go.
And like after that breakup, I really found myself. And I do have him to thank for helping me find like my love for fashion, and the city and even media. Because we always talked about like, oh, we're gonna start a media company one day.
Okay.
And so we never did, obviously, but because of that, I found like my fashion sense and I started reaching out to like photographers and videographers just to like film content, or I even started learning like how to work cameras here. Um and it all kind of rooted from like him like helping me realize my passions.
Hmm.
And so it's kind of crazy. Like, I wonder if he has seen like the woman I've grown up to be, because I did not was not into any of this when we were together.
Hmm.
And it's like I do have him to thank for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah.
And that's the thing. That's the thing about life. All these people leave in life, whether that be leave this earth or just leave your life, but you do have, whether you like it or not, a part of them inside of you for the rest of your life.
Mm,
And the little bits and pieces that they leave while they're there is who you are, whether
yeah,
you like it or not.
yeah,
And
that's
I think
true.
that's one of the most beautiful things about life, man.
Yeah, that's true. That's really good.
I hope, because
Yeah.
that was all I have to say, man.